What's up, everybody? How you doing today? Well, Carpo is here to recite some more nonsense for you. My thought this afternoon, I wanted to come home, and I went on a drive today with my family, with my mom and my kids, and we went out to out towards Hood River, out by Mount Hood, and saw my brother. He lives out there in White Salmon, and my mom and I always have these great conversations in the car, and we tend to override each other, and we're both talkers. So I've made it a point lately to just kind of let her do most of the talking, because we end up getting in conflicts, and she tends to think that I'm always like over or trying to correct her, or that I don't agree with everything. And I say, no, that's just my nature. I'm a skeptic, you know, and you're stating this and this and this. And so anyway, we got into this conversation about the world and the state of the world, and we were talking about kids and growing up, and I was saying how I want to travel the world, you know, and how hopefully one day, you know, my goal is once my kids are, you know, raised and out of the house, that my wife and I can travel the world and see all these great places. And my mom said that she wanted to, but that the world was, you know, just so fucked up and so chaotic and in constant chaos and turmoil that that it's dangerous to travel. And I really thought about this, because this is something I've been really thinking about a lot lately, because a lot of people feel this way. And I don't. You know, I have a friend that, you know, we were going to travel the world together, and he left home when I met my wife at when I was about 23, 22. And he came back after a few years and said, you know, of course it's nothing like they tell you it is, you know. The world is not so chaotic, but with all the media portraying all the horrific things, you know, they're always going to pull out that one battle that's going on, or that one terrorist group, or that one guy who did something horrific to his wife or his kids, or whatever it may be. I think that we miss the big picture. You get the full encompassing picture of even our country. We're somewhere around, what, 350 million people, okay? A third of a billion people living in one country. And you hear one story about somebody who did some horrific murder. You know, when you hear the term 1 in a million, how about 1 in 350 million? Of course, things are happening all the time. I'm not denying that. But the way I see the world, as opposed to the way that others sometimes tell me they view the world, is that it's not a hostile place at all. You go to most of these countries, even Middle Eastern countries, the people will welcome you in with open arms. My buddy was traveling around, he told me all kinds of stories, you know, about how other cultures welcome you in. And we're almost told that the rest of the world hates us, the world hates Americans, and that, you know, we shouldn't leave our little comfort zone in our box. And I just think that that's harmful to the world, harmful to society, to think that everyone's out to get you. We know that somebody will always take charge, and somebody will always take advantage. Somebody will always rob tourists, you know, in the Central American cities. You know, people will always steal cars. People will always beat their wives and their children. I mean, this has just historically been the way that people are. Ignorance breeds bad behavior, and people do horrific things, not often out of any type of hatred or animosity, but just because of ignorance. But I think we have a choice of how we want to view the world. We have to make that choice. So for me personally, I prefer to view the world with a degree of wonder and amazement, instead of a degree of chaos and confusion. And this is really this is the, you know, the main focal point here, that we each make a choice, and we can choose to see all that's wrong, or we can choose to see all that's right. And often that's dependent upon how we feel in our lives, the types of things we've been through, etc. But nobody's going to be able to convince you of what's right or what's wrong, or how you should feel. You know, ultimately it all comes down to you as an individual. You are responsible for your own emotion and your own mental state. So for me personally, I found that allowing negativity to dominate my life was harmful to my psyche. I've never been a negative person, so I was never a negative thinker, but even when I was really kind of a doomer and gloomer, saying this and this could happen, I realized that it's really serving no purpose. So what I found out was that, I'm much happier when I see things for what they are as opposed to what we're told they are. And the world is not a chaotic place. If you are to go out and travel the land and drive across the country, you're going to see 99% of the time, probably more like 99.9% of the time, you're going to see normal daily activities, people walking, going to work, coming home, and once in a while you'll see something super chaotic, super horrible, and you can choose to dwell on that one bad thing and think this world's a disaster, or you can just say, well, most of the time things are good, and that's the way I choose to see it, I guess. And I see in nature, when we observe nature, I had this discussion with somebody the other day. They were saying, what about the chaotic, the chaos of nature and the total competition and the constant, battling for space and for land? And I said, that's what we used to think it was like. And now we've seen things like animals nursing animals that aren't their own, or not only from their own species, but from other species. Animals rearing humans, feral humans growing up with monkeys. Plants and animals which keep each other under control. There's even one study of plants releasing these toxic compounds that killed off all these sheep because the sheep were overpopulated. But the plants don't just do it out of spite. The plants don't just say, hey, you can't eat me, I'm going to kill you. They wait until they're being abused. And this is the way I think society, we need to see it, is that when people are being oppressed, when nature is being oppressed, it fights back. We fight back. And this is what we see in the world today. This is where this turmoil comes from. It's from people fighting back because they don't have a comfortable life, just a normal life. And I'm not talking about people who want more than they deserve. I'm talking the average person who is oppressed and just wants basic rights. And I hate to say that Americans act like a bunch of spoiled bitches sometimes, but it's very true. We talk about how we're losing our rights, but here we are, we're able to speak our minds. We still have some of these rights. So rather than dwelling on what rights we think we don't have, use the ones that we have to make a difference. We can still speak our minds. I feel like we have the opportunity to make a difference in this world, but only if we're willing to act in accordance with nature, which means that we have to observe nature. So, observing nature means saying that things aren't as chaotic as we thought they were. And I think that takes a personal approach for each individual. Nobody's going to be able to force that into your head. We've discovered ourselves. I could sit up here all day and tell you about how you should think positive, or you should do this or should do that, and I don't, because I make it a point not to be that kind of person, because I realize the person's in their own state, in their own mindset, so all I can do is kind of plant the seed, but I hear a lot of these, I'll use the term New Agers, telling us to deny our emotions, to deny our anger, to just be happy and let everything go, and that's not the approach either. This passive kind of ignorance of the reality of what's going on, because there are harmful things happening in the world, but it's not a matter of ignoring the things that are going on. It's a matter of learning to deal with them, incorporate them into our lives, and to realize that most of what goes on in the realm of war, in the realm of attacks and violence, is due to ignorance. Ignorance, perhaps in the education of a person, ignorance or being unaware of the proper approach to do something, which is often a lack of education. The other side of it is those who just don't have enough, who are just trying to feed their families, who are just trying to make it by. And there are a lot of them. And we think that the rich and the poor division is bad in this country. People, some of the countries out there have the most horrific division. It is like us and them, and there is no middle class whatsoever, which we're losing this quickly, but at least we still have something. At least the average man can still, pull something out of his hat if he wants to. Some of these places, they have no chance. And that's what breeds war, hatred. But ultimately, it comes into the machine. And you can choose to ride along on the machine. I guess we all have to be part of it, but let it get to you. You can't bring it down. You know, you have to take everything for what it is and just live your life. I mean, every day has to be a new day. You know, we can't get all worked up and built up over particular things we can't change. So, I don't know. I don't know if I got my point across there or not, but anyway, I hope you all have a good day and take care.